Son pronto a te.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Academy of Bel Canto and the Mystery Bel Canto podcast. My name is Joseph Cianciulli. As always, I am the founder of the Mystery Bel Canto podcast and the Academy Bel Canto. I'm also the host of the Mystery Bel Canto podcast, and I'm talking to you today about the Cuperto breath. What is it? I know I've mentioned it in the past. It's a part of our coursework. So the Cuperto is an old world term that pertains or references the shape in the embouchure, in the mouth, that you hold with energy as air is moving in. Yes, as you inhale. So the shape of Cuperto is a pin-sized opening in the lips with a long jaw and sunken cheeks on the side. Yes, so let's just talk about the pharynx for a second. So the pharynx is the space in the back of the mouth. It can be seen as a tube. Now, there's a lot of people talking about gola aperto or open throat. When you have the shape of U, the shape is open. It's being twisted today to kind of serve the needs of the modern teacher by using it to say that their muscling approach, using the yawn technique of muscling the space open, is actually gola aperto. Well, yes, technically the space is open, but now you're muscling it open and you're trying to hold that space with rigidity and muscle. Even when there's a small amount of U space, the full column is still open unless you're squeezing or intentionally closing off parts of the pharynx. But essentially we have three parts to the pharynx, to the tube. We have the upper part, which is the nasopharynx. It's the space behind the nose, and then we descend down into the space behind the mouth, known as the oral pharynx. And then at the very bottom we have the laryngopharynx, the space behind the larynx. So when you breathe in through the shape of U, yes, Cuperto U, a pin-sized opening, yes, what you're doing is you're encouraging an optimal livening of the full spectrum of the space in the back of the mouth, of the full spectrum of the pharynx. So as opposed to breathing in through the nose, where you only expand the upper pharynx, the nasopharynx, when you breathe into Cuperto, you get the full spectrum. Now, the way this differs from the modern approach is that you don't actually hold the space after you breathe in through that shape. So remember, we have the descent of breath, which actually draws breath in naturally, but you want to have a shape that the breath can move through. So I'm not actively dragging in breath. That's the straw technique, and that's incorrect. It's going to cause the drying out of the fold. It's going to cause muscling in the pharynx and the laryngeal muscles. We don't suck in through a straw. What you're doing is giving a shape, and you're allowing breath to descend, and then an equalization of pressure as the breath is rushing in. And you feel it kind of rise all the way up to the sternum. Then you can stop the breath at the top of the sternum and release sound to sing. We don't hold up space. We don't hold it with rigidity, yes? So I'm going to give you an example. Quanto è bella, quanto è cara, from l'Elisir d'amore. I'll breathe in through U, through the shape of U, and then I forget about it. Dan always said this is the way to a more expansive pharyngeal shape without muscling. So the older schools of Bel Canto understood that the progress of the student is determined on however long it takes their own anatomy and physiology to absorb and reflect the Bel Canto principles that the teacher was guiding the singer toward. And if the teacher didn't hear that the voice was consistent enough, they let the voice develop on its own time. They didn't rush it. There were no juries in months and months or concerts that were planned until the voice was built properly. So the way Cuperto is used is as a tool. Every time you breathe in, like a muscle, you breathe in and the space livens. And then you forget about it and you sing out. And the space goes in a little bit and then you breathe in again. Well, over time, months, years of breathing into Cuperto shape, the space learns to hold a more expansive state without you actually squeezing or muscling or holding. Okay? And what's more, Cuperto can be used as a rehabilitative shape as well, because Dr. Barbara Mathis used the Cuperto shape along with descending exercise to remedy things like nodules and polyps and local fatigue. So the Cuperto shape is therapeutic. It provides an optimal release in the pharynx, in the back of the mouth. But like anything in Bel Canto, it's very simple. Bel Canto is simple. You breathe into a shape, allow the body to coordinate properly, you stop the breath, and you move breath out with purity of vowel. It's very simple. And you release it through the posture. The hard part is trying to peel off all the layers of the onion that got stuck to you, whether through training or through poor habits and listening. But it does take time to bring yourself back to a simple connection. Very, very simple release of resonance. So we're going to start, we're going to sing Quanto è bella quanto è cara. Just the first part. I want you to hear the influence of Cuperto shape. So I breathe into Cuperto, I stop the breath, and I forget about Cuperto, and I move on through the line. The second I breathe in again, yes, I release through the Cuperto shape. I allow the descent of breath. So I start. Quanto è bella, quanto è cara, più la vedo e più mi piace, ma in quel cor non son capace, lieve affetta inspirar. So it's very, very simple. You breathe in, you stop the breath, and you move breath out the direction. You move breath in the direction of the front upper teeth. And you rely on the sensation of squillo. So squillo again. Squillo is just the simple initial release of resonance. It feels bright. Dan would say that Raz had told him that the upper teeth are like a bell. Yes? When you have the vowels a, e, and e, you don't want to cover the bell. Because when you cover the bell, you muffle the natural squeal, the natural release of resonance there. Now, o and u are different. Yes, it's okay to keep the integrity of the vowel, to cover, but give shape to the embouchure. But for a, and e, you want to show the upper teeth to allow the bell to ring. Now, the caveat to that is when you see lower teeth as a teacher, it means muscles. Okay, it means the student is getting involved with the jaw, maybe with the extrinsic muscles of the larynx, but they're getting involved with muscle, and we have to be careful when we see lower teeth. Okay, so this has been your introduction to Cuperto. It is a tool to encourage the optimal livening of the space in the pharynx before singing, but you do not hold it, you do not squeeze or try to mold this with the yawn technique. This is simply a technique to liven the space naturally, and over time you will hear that the singer's space is more naturally expanded in the pharynx, in the full spectrum of the pharynx. So we will see you for your next excerpt.